Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 28th regular meeting of the Clay Township Board. Our first order of business is a pledge of the allegiance. Mary, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mary. This month, Doug, we do not have recognition of an outstanding citizen. Very good. First order of business, approval of minutes from the October 10th, 2017 board meeting and the 2018 budget adoption. Is there a motion for approval?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion will carry 3-0. Are there any public comments this evening? Hearing none, we will move to action items. We have a couple of action items tonight. The first one is adoption of resolution number 2017-11-2801, which is an additional appropriation resolution. Mr. Bosma, should I read this or paraphrase?
I think you can paraphrase. It's up to the board to do that. There's no requirement that you read the entire resolution out loud.
Okay. Okay.
I so move, Chairman.
Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Any discussion? I would like to point out that the resolution contains appropriation of monies from the rainy day fund, the general fund, the fire building debt fund, and the park capital non-reverting fund. Any further discussion on that resolution?
I might suggest that you say the total.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bosman.
Appropriation is the total. No.
Rainy day fund total, $100,000. The general fund total, $100,000. Fire building debt fund total, $366,000. And the park capital non-reverting fund, $1.120 million. Having a motion and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry 3-0. Next action item is resolution number 2017-11-28-02. This is a transfer of funds between major budget classifications in the fire fund in the amount of $135,000. Is there a motion?
I'm so moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry 3-0. Thank you for the action items. Information items. We have a couple of information items. Doug?
Yeah, we every year we do have to sign the nepotism policy, the board and myself. So at the end of the meeting, we'll get your signatures on both. There's two forms you have to sign. One for nepotism, working together, basically. If I would have somebody underneath me that I'm related to, I can't do that. And the other one is having a vendor that we're associated with, that's related to us. So those are the two that will be working.
Okay, very good. And second, the township board meetings for 2018?
I gave to you in your packets, it's for 2018. And what I want is if you guys can go through there and take them home with you and then let me know if you have a problem with the date so we can change it way ahead of time. So I guess that's the information.
Okay. And most notably, we do have an organizational meeting on Tuesday, January 2nd.
Right.
And then our annual board meeting on the 23rd of the same month. Okay, thank you, Doug. Financial questions from the board. Mary, you have one.
I do, and it's actually directed at Michael, and he's aware that I have this question. You have a winter camp, and it sounds really like it's a neat place when kids are out of school and have no place else to go. But it costs money, and the kids are supposed to bring their own food. And my question to you was, do Do you have a scholarship fund? And if you do have a fund and you need help, the township, Doug and I've talked about it, would like to step up, and we will put it through the board naturally, but what we are going to approach them to do is to support that camp so that those that need a scholarship or can't come will be able to be there.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for the interest in our winter camps. This program is actually an extension of our extended school enrichment program, which is the before and after school program that we offer through Carmel Clay Schools. And it actually does have a scholarship component available to all the participants. This year, currently, we have one person on scholarship that's enrolled. Historically, usually those enrollments happen a week or 2 weeks before the camp starts, at least for the winter camp. So it's not particularly alarming that there's only one. Last year, in all of our break camps, we had 51 kids on scholarship. Last year, we gave out roughly $16,000 in scholarships for people to participate in the Schools Out camp. We would anticipate a similar number again this year for both the winter camp and also the spring break camp. That $16,000 encompasses both of those camps. We do offer scholarships based on the economic need of the participants. It's basically the exact same scholarship formula that we offer for the before and after school program. It's loosely based off of the program that the school uses for reduced and free lunches. The reason I say loosely is that we actually have 4 categories as opposed to the 2 categories that the school has, which is either free or reduced. We offer up to 100% scholarship for those with the greatest need, down to 25% for those with some need but not quite as extensive. Overall, this year we do anticipate offering approximately $210,000 in total scholarships to participants, not only of obviously the summer camps and winter camps, but also to before and after school participants and people that are interested in memberships or participating at programs at the Monon Community Center. So any assistance that the township is interested in providing, we certainly welcome. But regardless, we will continue to ensure that that the youth and families of Carmel and Clay Township have the opportunity to participate in our programs and use the Monon Community Center.
Doug said that this could come out of our poor relief efforts.
Sure.
So I just wanted to be sure that if there were some children that weren't notified because they'd been at a camp before, that the community knows it's here.
Sure.
And that, you know, we'd like to have as many children there as possible.
Absolutely, and we completely agree with you. So I'm happy to work with Doug, and if there's any people that we feel are getting missed, we'll make sure that we try to reach out to them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
One thing too is all we would need is actually an invoice
Okay.
that would show how many we're gonna people.
Sure.
You know, after the fact, once they.
Absolutely. Definitely. I'm happy to work with you, Doug.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Board.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Are there other financial questions from the board? Moving on to board comments. Does anybody have a comment?
I do have one, and I'm going to toss it over to Doug, and I'm going to talk about the article in the Current, which I hope that you all saw. And I was concerned about the way the article read, because if you're just going through papers and you're not really looking, the end of this made it look like, it says the township, this is the legal basis for the annexation, and this is what was reported in the paper. The township did not take an active role in the administration of the fire protection services. Other than the 5 vehicles it owned that were part of the fire department's fleet and the money paid for the fire protection services, the township did not contribute any other resources to the fire departments, such as personnel training or additional equipment. Therefore, we find that Carmel was the provider and furnished fire protection services to Home Place. Well, that isn't really true, and it was written that way, and you know, Doug gave a speech on this to the people in Home Place, and I'd like you to speak to that, please, Doug.
Okay, thank you. After 34 years on the fire department and 11 years here at this office, the city of Carmel and the township have worked together very well. And it seems like over the years, even when I was at the fire department, it seemed like the township always got the short change. They never got credit for the things they should. For instance, 5 of the 6 fire stations that are in Carmel right now was built by the township. Now, why did we do that? We did it because we could tax the entire township. Carmel could only tax Carmel, but we handled it, so the only station we did not have a hand in, and I was with the fire department at the time, would be the headquarters there at Civic Square. So to not be involved in the fire department and us heading up the 5 of the 6 fire stations that are here is totally wrong. The other thing is, not only on our apparatus, the 2 aerial trucks was bought right out by the township. The ladder truck, the tiller was $1 million. Oh, I think it was like $1 short of $1 million that the township paid for. The 91 aerial, which they still have as use it as a backup, that was paid by the township, and I think it was like $500,000-600,000 at the time. But we're talking about 25 years ago, 27 years ago. Okay, so over the years, and when I was at the fire department, we started this EMS fund, as most of you are aware of. We started this EMS fund so the city or the township did not have to use tax dollars to purchase this equipment. So other than those aerial trucks, all the other pumpers and ambulance and stuff has been bought out of the EMS fund. So if you call an ambulance in Carmel transported a patient or whatever, they are the ones that were paying for all the apparatus. And you guys know what category 4 is in our budget. It's capital outlays. When I was at the fire department, and to this day, capital outlays are 0. We pay nothing for equipment. This EMS fund did several things. It bought turnout gear for people. It bought office equipment for the stations. It bought everything in capital outlays. That's the EMS fund. So to say that the township wasn't involved is totally wrong, okay? And don't get me wrong, most people know I'm for the annexation. That's nothing new. People know the way I feel because it's the right thing to do. But this is the training, where it says addition or departments such as personnel. Okay, I understand that. I'll give that to Carmel. Training. What did we just build 2 years ago?
A training center.
A training and maintenance center for the Carmel Fire Department. Something that was needed for a long time. So for them to write this last paragraph in this article was horrible. I made a phone call to them, and they never returned my phone call. But I think this is just totally bad writing as far as I'm concerned. Did not even get a hold of us to hear our side of the story from this paper. So anyway, but just to give you an insight of you guys and everybody that's worked on this township, from John Hensel, Judy Hagan, myself, and all you board members, Dr. Dillon, you three, and it goes way back to Bob Book and those. I mean, the contract we have had goes back to at least the 50s and the 60s. So the township, and the thing is that people don't understand is it all referred back to our AV, assessed value. In 2004, we paid 42%, or the township paid 42% of the fire department's budget. Back in '73, when I came on, I mean, it was ungodly. Now, I don't know the number exactly, but I bet you it was around 80% of the fire department's budget back in '73 was paid by the township because federal revenue sharing we received. So I just want to clarify that, and I told these people to the meeting I went to on Saturday, just so they kind of understood. I am for the annexation. I think it's something that needs to be done, and I'll support the city any way I can, but I think the paper has a lot to be desired. Thank you. If you have any questions.
If I could add just a few items. I'm not one to defend the media generally, including the current, but what you just read, Mary, was a direct quote from the case.
I understand
the
that.
decision. So just to give a minute or two on how courts make decisions. Courts make decisions based on the evidence that's presented to them. And because someone forwarded it to me claiming it was the opinion, I read the brief that was filed by the landowners, the home place participants. And they didn't cite in that brief many of the facts that were just brought forward right here about the township's participation in fire services. Here, what the township had purchased for it. The brief didn't set forth those things. It did say that there was an ownership of one fire station and partial ownership of another one. That's clearly understates the accuracy, but some of this also dates back to evidence that was introduced in 2004 and 5, okay? So it's a very odd procedure on this. The court didn't hold an entirely new evidentiary hearing. They based their decision on what had been previously filed dating back to 2004 and 5, when some of the facts that we're pointing at here were in actuality true. So the current, I didn't think that the court did a good job necessarily of having accurate facts, but that's because of the facts that were placed before them. And of course, Township was not a participant, a litigant in this. So it was just what the city stated and what the attorneys for the landowners stated. So whether it's right or not, the current was actually quoting directly from the court's decision.
I understand that, but my concern was that when Adam wrote it, he didn't find out that he knows enough about us, has been at our meetings, and he didn't write it to reflect what the way it really is from the township. And I just think that we should have had a quote in there from Doug as a trustee, and it could have been written a little bit differently, even though that was the way it was stated in the case. That is not the way the township functions here.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's suspect journalism at best, but nevertheless, you know, among other things, we have had a little bit of criticism from certain people who have accused us of being complicit in this takeover of Home Place. Why wasn't the township more actively involved in you know, championing the cause of Home Place and protecting what's left of the township? Well, that's not our responsibility. That needs to be said. That is absolutely not our responsibility to defend Home Place from a hostile takeover by the city of Carmel. Whether you agree with it or not, that's not our function. The function of the township is laid out very clearly, and we continue to operate under the auspice of those duties. So, as our responsibilities may diminish somewhat, we are dealt the cards, and we continue to play with the cards that we're dealt. We have certain obligations that will continue with the Clay Township as long as it exists. Right or wrong, the article was, in my opinion, I agree with you, Mary, fairly inaccurate, but also, to Brian's point, that's what the court found.
Right.
And the court isn't always clear or correct or precise, like any walk of life. So that's what we're dealt with. Any other board comments?
I want to wish you all Merry Christmas.
Oh, certainly to you too.
Announcements, Doug?
Earlier, like I said, the appointment of the Waste District, reappointment of Carl Mills, unless you guys have someone else you want to consider. He's going to be reinstated. And then in the Parks, Rich Taylor, which you don't have nothing to do with Rich Taylor with Parks, but you do with the Waste District, and you have to concur with me or not. So all I ask, if you call me and say, I don't want Carl Mills, who do you want? So I can have a letter for you either the December 12th or January 2nd. Okay? So those are the only two. Let's see. That's it, unless you have any questions for Mr. Bosman.
So it is possible that we'll have a meeting in December, but if we are comfortable with continuing with the appointments that you just mentioned, we may not need to. And then our next meeting would be the 2nd of January. I would also like to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And we had a great year on the Clay Township Board. I think we had another very productive year under Doug's leadership and my colleagues. I'd also like to thank Michael Klitzing from the Parks Department for being here, and Speaker Bosma, great to see you, sir, and Hal Espy. Thank you for doing a wonderful job of filming our meetings. Mary, any other comments?
No, I'd just like to thank Michael. I wanted to be sure to get that in so that if there was anything that we could do that you were missing, that we would know about it, so we thank you. Always good to see you, Hal, too.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
I so move.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.